Welcome to the October 16, 2015 edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on as ballots go out this week. Voters will have to decide whether lawmakers should handle the $66.1 million that they collected during taxes during the first year of Colorado's legalizing marijuana, legalizing recreational pot. If Proposition BB passes, the state would use the money for school construction and other programs. Otherwise, $25 million would go back to taxpayers, with the remaining $41 million going to marijuana cultivators and customers. Patricia Calhoun with Westward, if the money does go back to taxpayers, how much money is it?
Well, it's about $8 a taxpayer, which means you probably, unless you went to a very cut rate dispensary, you're not even going to be able to get a joint for that. So here's the thing. When people voted for Amendment 64, they assumed the tax money was going to schools. So if we vote for BB, it is basically doing what voters thought they were doing when they passed this ballot back in 2012. So I think that's the way to go. Voters should go for this. I think, it's not that the money from marijuana was too much. It's just that it pushed the whole budget over, which is why we're into this point. So, no, that's just what I was hearing the other day. Anyway, I'm voting for it.
David Kopel with the Independence Institute and DU Law School. What are your thoughts? What way do you think voters will go on this one?
I think they will have the choice, which is the best thing possible. That's what the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights is all about. And I can see, there's good arguments on both sides of this. From what I understand, and Ben may have studied this more than I have, that this is not something that was purely excess marijuana money. But the ballot issue is structured to make it look like that. If they'd said, we collected too much money in income taxes, that would be less appealing to voters to say, you can just keep it anyway. When you sort of frame it as, it's just pot smokers' money, then it's more likely that voters will say, well, fine, I don't care how taxed they are, let the government keep the money. I wish there were some additional specificity about how the money is going to be spent. But whatever comes out, this is something where it's great that the voters will get to decide.
Political analyst Eric Sonderman, what are your thoughts on this?
I think this one's a no-brainer. I think Patty probably conveyed, the logic well. If there's a time and a place where we're going to do another referendum C or some kind of global referendum C to debruce the state and keep huge chunks of money, there'll be a very robust debate across the state and certainly around this table. But this is not a referendum C. At the end of the day, it's not nickels and dimes, but it's also not the big global state budget. Let's go A and B. A, schools could use the money. Schools can always use the money, but in this case, for capital construction, it is logical. And B, I don't see any logic to return this to the cultivators. They knew going in that this was going to be the tax structure, so I see no reason to facilitate a refund.
Public affairs consultant Ben Gelt, what is your thoughts on this?
Well, quickly, this was triggered because the total revenue from taxes was actually $270 million more than what the state projected in the Prop AA initiative that Colorado voters approved to authorize the tax scheme around cannabis. And the $66.1 million collected from marijuana revenue was actually $900,000 under the projection for cannabis revenue. So it was triggered by an underappreciation of how quickly the state would recover, generally speaking, economically. To the initiative specifically, I hope that it will pass. I expect that it will. I think most voters probably believe that this bill passing is something that's already happened, that they've already voted for that, but we haven't. Tabor forces us to sort of continually review new taxes, and because the estimate of total state tax revenue was so far above, the actual collected was so far above the estimate, that's why we have this ballot initiative. I think voters are going to approve it. Clearly people in Colorado have said, yes, let's legalize recreational cannabis, and yes, let's tax the hell out of it. So that's what this is. I think it'll probably pass maybe with 55 or 60% at the very most, simply because it's a little bit confusing. We do have these sort of anti-tax sentiments around the state, and what have you, but it should pass.
And that's all the time we have for Colorado Inside Out postgame this week. Leave us a comment and tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Gabrielle Bryant. Thanks for watching.